Howdy there, viewer. Cyber terrorism, or more generally, cybercrime, the innate force of our universe that keeps cybersecurity in check, as both are two sides of the same coin, a yin and yang of sorts, if you will. This perfect balance is what allows our world to exist. But imagine what may occur if this balance were to be disrupted. Envision in your mind such a place. Cybercrime has completely taken over. The economy is run by hipsters. Incest has been legalized. This is the world of Zenless Zone Zero. Developed by Hoyoverse, this is the third game they've made, if we aren't counting all the other ones. Now, I'm not exactly a fan of Hoyos to begin with. I'm no stranger to gacha games, but Hoyo games have just never appealed to me, and I'm not exactly very fond of many of their practices either. Believe me, we'll touch on that later. And even outside of that, the communities that form around Hoyo games have to be the worst out of any gacha game. Yet, despite all this, back when the news for Z, as I will be calling it from now on, first came out, my interest was piqued. I love the game's style, the setting looked really cool, the character designs looked sick, and there were other things that caught my attention as well. Even this game's fresh community seems to be devoid of the usual Hoyotards, instead appealing to a far more refined breed of individuals. So when the game finally came out, I said, why not? Let's check it out and see what all the buzz is about. The first step, of course, being to actually download the game. Now, I hear this one actually packs quite the punch for your PC, but that doesn't matter, at least not to me. You see, I own a quantum gaming PC, a real beast of a machine, allowing me to easily and effortlessly run the most intense gaming experiences at the highest settings. So after a super quick download, which dealt but a mere dent to my storage, we can finally begin. The game starts, we choose the superior option for the protagonist, and we are greeted watching a trio of rapscallions attempt some sort of heist. This whole situation feels very familiar.
I'm pissed, and this station's reporter, I can't listen to this anymore. Those criminals need to get. As soon as we find them, we should just get them all, and then them again!
Okay, what's with this dialogue? Who wrote this script? VizzyPop? So this group of three ends up in a confrontation with the priorly mentioned Red Fang Gang after attempting to steal a mysterious safe. Upon alerting the attention of the police, they get shot by a missile and end up falling into a weird black hole known as a hollow. Here, we get our first taste of the game's combat. The group reunites, well, at least two of them, and try to find some way out, running into the same gangster as before. This time he's transformed into some sort of monster known as an ethereal. While the two try to find a way out, we return to the waking world. We see the same duo of protagonists from before watching a broadcast, before being rudely interrupted by one of the girls from before, the one not stuck inside an abyss. As she explains her plight, we learn a couple of new things. First of all, she's part of a group of ne'er-do-wells known as the Cunning Hares. The group of three is comprised of Nicole, the leader, Anby, the realist, and Billy, the gamer. Anby and Billy, as we saw, are stuck in the hollow with no way out. So Nicole came here to commission our services. We play as Weiss, and with our sister and potential lover, Belle, we run a proxy business, one of the best, as we are known as the legendary proxies of Faith. You see, the Hollow is a dangerous place. It's like an alternate universe, another realm, if you will, except it isn't at all. The Hollow can open up and consume parts of the world, turning them to ruin. Entrances to the Hollow can be as obvious as that huge black hole we saw in the sky, or small camouflaged fissures located through the city of New Eridu. Once inside the Hollow, it can be especially difficult to navigate. There's a ton of spatial distortion, so you can't entirely rely on your sense of direction to get around. Plus, the Hollows are populated by various criminal factions, as well as those monsters from before, known as ethereals. And anybody who stays in a Hollow for too long risks transforming into one of those ethereals. Like that other guy. Only those with high enough aether aptitude can stay inside a Hollow for a prolonged period of time to begin with. That's where we come in. We are proxies, the guys behind the chair, the navigators, if you will, who serve as people's guide throughout the Hollow. What makes us so special is that we're able to do all this work remotely by linking our consciousness to a Bangbu, one of these little guys. We enter the Hollow through our battle station and provide support that way, but we still gotta be careful, seeing as our activities aren't exactly legal, as they say. I like this sort of approach. I always liked it when the MC takes on a more support-oriented or managerial role, especially in a gacha game. I mean, we're even called the manager. Wait, wrong gacha. Both protagonists, Weiss and Bell, are actually voiced this time around, and they have a ton of notable dialogue. The interactions between the MCs are pretty solid all around. They got nice personalities. Weiss is kind of a straight man, Bell is more of a wacky little sister. You get a real sense of camaraderie between them, some real sibling bonding energy. They do feel very in touch with each other. Anyway, getting back to the matter at hand, we connect into cyberspace for the first time and walk into the Hollow. Anby and Billy are still running around aimlessly until they discover us. We explained how we were commissioned by Nicole and begin to find an escape route. If this strange looking set of TV monitors that is the exploration screen confuses you, good. We get the two out of there and reunite the Cunning Hares with their boss. Nicole, however, isn't too pleased and refuses to pay us as we haven't completed our end of the deal. We promised to deliver Anby, Billy, as well as the mysterious box that had been stolen. It seems it belonged to an important client of theirs. Alright, fair enough, that makes sense. So we go back in for another trip into the Hollow. Things go pretty smoothly until we suddenly lose connection. Upon getting booted out of the metaverse, losing contact with the others, we begin trying to figure out what to do next until something strange begins to display on the monitors. That's right, it's a hacker. The strange voice seems to know who we are and what it is we've been doing. They demand we hand over the strongbox as well as the access code along with it. He's already taken control of the HDD along with the whole system, and who knows what dangerous stuff is in there. Back in the Hollow, the Cunning Hares have gone lost without a proxy there to assist them, but even with the threat of getting caught, they don't abandon or betray us. Gotta keep the real ones close. Formulating a devilish scheme, we decide to give full control of the faith and identity over to the mysterious hacker, and then proceed to call the authorities over to him so he may take the fall for all of our crimes, finally getting rid of him and regaining control of the system, but losing our legendary level 300 faith and account in the process. But that's fine. Earlier in the story, we created an alt account. After a heartwarming reunion, we continue going through the Hollow and make it back to the big ethereal from before. After a quick fight, we now have the strongbox at last. Only issue is, we have no escape route. All our data was deleted when we pulled that gambit with the hacker. All our account info, the Hollow data, even the Vor folder, all just gone in an instant. Fickle things machines are, aren't they? As to avoid dying slowly in the Hollow, we open the strongbox and plug in the chip, and as a result, awaken to some sort of untold power, signing a very poorly worded NDA. Well, a real man would never deny his hero's journey. So I guess we kind of have to agree to, now don't we? We wake up, and it turns out that strange voice in our head turned out to be some sort of super advanced AI called Fairy. And even worse, she's now forcefully installed herself into all our devices. She's very powerful, very sophisticated, and very smug, but she lacks a cool android anime girl design, and is represented purely by a pulsating eyeball. I'm sorry, Fairy, but if you're so advanced, how hard is it for you to generate a VTuber model to represent you or something? Yeah, sorry guys, robot girls lose again. Anyway, we go back to rest after the busy day we have, and we've now finally unlocked the freedom to do what we want. But before any of that, I bet you've noticed the game's style by now. And if you're anything like me, then you must be saying, whoa, this game sure looks pretty radical. The whole look of this game is pretty funky and fresh. This game feels way past cool. It's got that insane swagger and street cred. Its melanin levels are off the charts. Oh, okay, I'll stop. But yeah, this game's style is one of the things that got me to play it in the first place. Persona 5, but gnarly. Okay, for real this time, I'll stop. I'm a huge fan of the game's setting. I like anything sci-fi that isn't space related. The moment we reach the stars, I lose all interest, save for some rare exceptions. The game also has a lot of flair. The menus are all super clean and got that edge to them. The animations that play for each character when I switch between the different submenus just gives off so much personality. And everything is contextualized around your job as a proxy, taking commissions online. You even get a cool wallpaper of your sister doom scrolling on TikTok. That's pretty nice. Oh, and the look of combat. Every attack and parry, especially when you're fighting bigger enemies, is accompanied by the whole screen shaking so you can feel the impact. The slowdown when you switch characters, the effects when you execute special attacks, and the wipeout splash screen of all the camera shot changes that happen when you clear a stage. It's all just perfect. It reminds me a lot of that game, Hi-Fi Rush, except this one's actually good, and far less gay. It actually has good character design for one. Speaking of which, on the topic of character design, it's great. Despite my general dislike for their games, I will say that I've always liked the character design in Genshin's or HSR, but man, they really knocked it out of the park this time around. From what I've heard, the lead artist is the dude responsible for some of the best designs in Azure Lane, and it shows. Like half of the girls are lollies. I would like to say, I've received many concerns regarding my contradictory tastes. I mean, come on, I've seen the official TheCoolBeansMan mood board. How can you explain this discrepancy? These are on the opposite side of the political spectrum. Well, to quote a wise man, So yeah, that's all you're getting out of me, at least for now. I'm afraid the topic of women will have to be discussed another day. But as for now, let's take a look at the cast. Since the game just came out, there aren't many, so let's knock them all out. Anby, she's cool, calm and collected, the deadpan type, a real kudere. Now I'm not a kudere type of guy, but if you're an Anby fan, understandable. Nicole, one of the best girls. She's got two great things about her personality and her boobs. She's the leader of the Cunning Hares, a team comprised of these four. You know, this team looks kind of familiar, but yeah, I love her. She's very hot, she's very funny, she never pays off her debts, but you gotta respect the grind nonetheless. We can get her to pay it back eventually, I'm sure. Billy. He's a cool guy, a real zany fellow, a wacky whimsical guy indeed, your classic best friend character. Billy's the type of guy you could head over to the crab shack with and get a couple of beers. The type of guy you'd bring with you to take on one of those endless food challenges where you engorge yourself in a sinful amount of food in order to get your cheeky grin on some wall. Soldier 11. Corin, she's a maid. I got her for free. She fights with a pizza cutter. I'm not into maids or spineless women, but if that's your thing, man, I don't know, get better taste, loser. Nekomata, I love cat girls. Look at her. She has tan skin, honorary Aryan, and she fights with two sword style. Okay, now this is peak. Coleta, she's a lolly, a redhead, has sharp teeth, and is a feisty sort. She even has insane dad lore. Okay, guys, now this is peak. The furry, he's pretty cool. I mean, he's literally just Sanji. Grace. Now I hate machines. Doohickeys and thingamabobs are among my most hated things, but I love mechanical women. A real plague I was born into, I know, and it doesn't help that there's certain elements of Grace that pique my interest. Anyway, as a result, guys, this is peak. Ellen, the current banner girl. She's cool, I like her tail, very cute, very nice, but not nice enough to pull for. And no amount of feet pics will convince me otherwise. Try again, John Z verse. I already said I don't like maids. Making them bigger won't change that. Now go away. Row, row, fight the power. Now this guy is cool. Anton's a real man's man. He's got that dog in him. He's the G, as the kids say. Lucy, peak, instant peak. Look at that dangerous aura about her. That absolutely sinister hockey. A real loose cannon, this one. Man, I wish you would just rad that spiked bat and just... Ben is a bear. Nothing else I can really add. So Kaku, she's aight. I have no stance on her. She's boring to play with, and I don't exactly care for her. Half of the appeal of an Oni girl is the size. You get rid of that, you're just left with Smurfette over here. That's coming from a lolicon, so that's how you know you messed up. Addendum? I've changed my mind on this matter. Piper. I think it's best we move on for now. Sadly, however, I can't talk about the characters' designs without bringing up the obvious. The censorship this game suffered. You see, many of the designs present in the game right now were not the original ones, but are instead censored versions. Some changes are bigger than others, yes. This can be seen as late as the closed beta test, the most notable example being Nicole. Her breast size was reduced, a bra was added to cover her up more, her shorts were extended a bit, and her animations were changed to be less alluring. Any way you slice it, this is just a plain downgrade. Her original animation showed off so much more of her boisterous personality. The body language and the posing tells you so much about her character at just a glance, while the censored version we have now is so boring by comparison, only being a couple of close-up shots with some pretty bland posing. Some dishonest censorship apologists will say, "Oh, I actually prefer the new designs." Nobody cares. That doesn't matter. The original design was clearly the original intent, so that's what should be used. It doesn't matter if the changes are something big like with Nicole, or small changes like what happened in Nekomata, Grace, or Soldier 11. Even things like the censored gore in the original ethereal transformation scene at the start. Be it big or small, censorship is bad and should never be supported. I'm not about to play defense for the CCP of all things because some people choose to ignore obvious bad practices in the industry, lying to others saying it isn't happening or doesn't matter. All censorship does is arbitrarily limit creatives, and it has no place here. It's so obvious it's BS, yet people would rather defend the CCP of all things than admit the truth. I talk so passionately about this because, well, I care about this. Games, anime, it's the things we care about that inspire us. What some might see as silly distractions, in truth are the means by which great stories are told. Stories of larger-than-life heroes, of great worlds and peoples. And it saddens me to see time and time again the things I care about being defiled by people who could care less about it. So no, this isn't something meaningless. I, and hopefully you, will continue to call out this BS to ensure the things we care about aren't ruined by bad actors and can continue to be great into the future. I know I got a bit more serious there for a second, but hey, you gotta get really passionate every once in a while. I will say, it does make me happy to see that the modding community for this game is growing. A lot of cool mods out there already. Most of them are just skins, but some cool ideas. There's already a couple of mods that reverse the designs back to the uncensored original, so that's great. You can always count on the fans to do right in these times. So yeah, if my character looks a bit different than yours, don't worry, you're not going insane. This time. Anyway, I do have something else to complain about. The gacha! Now, I'm no stranger to gachas. Played many, loved many, hated many. But I have to say that Hoyo games have to have the worst gacha mechanic out of all of them. No, I haven't played Fate Grand Order. In most gacha games, pulling is a mechanic. You pull for characters on banners, par for the course. In Hoyo games, you're the mechanic, and the game is pulling you each banner, hoping to get your hard-earned rubles. Well, they aren't getting mine, and as such, I will never be able to roll, since you get such little film from just playing the game naturally. You also have the shop and battle pass. I don't need to explain these, do I? If you're watching this video, you already get the deal. There's an event going on for Ellen, a goth shark maid. Quite the killer combination, isn't it? Not pulling though. I mean, yeah, I like her, but this is the first banner. They're saving the big guns for later. I ain't gonna waste my pulls here when I know later down the line stuff like this is in the works. But there is a standard banner, and after 50 pulls, you get a 5-star. Now, after me bringing up the gacha, and especially after seeing all those enticing character designs back there, I know what you're all thinking. Where's the gacha pulls? Yeah, show us your pulls from the standard banner. Well, not all of them. I mean, do you want to see me pull like 30 times only to get garbage? I got Ambi twice if you were wondering. Anyway, this one's the one that counts. Tried all the starter banner characters in the little demo and they're all pretty cool. Rena was pretty lame to play, but she's hot, so she gets a pass. The only one here who I don't want to get is Soldier 11. Valorant looking ass. Anyway, let's see what we got.
Soldier 11 reporting for duty. Ready for action.
I'd end the video right now, if I could. Combat. To be honest, the game's combat is fairly simple. Got basic attacks, combos, special attacks, which take a bit of your meter to use, and ultimates, which are shared across your whole team and take time to charge up. The main thing to focus on is assists. When you attack an enemy enough, you can break its stance, and you'll get the chance to switch between two other characters in your party and activate their assist skill. These all do a variety of things. Each party is comprised of 3 agents and a little guy, so your goal is to be able to get a full cycle of 4 going, so they can all perform their assists. Of course, including the little guy. Best time to do this is when the reticle is glowing brightly. There's other things too, such as various status effects you can build your team around. I'm forced to do burn for obvious reasons, or the various roles and team comps that each agent falls under. But none of that really matters. End of the day, the combat of this game doesn't excel at being super deep and complex. It excels at being cool. I cycle between my whole party while fighting a giant robot and finish it off with a slash from my fire sword. Yeah, I'm thinking pretty epic. You just feel cool when you're in a fight, so I'd call that a success. As far as building a character is concerned, you know the deal already. You have a weapon that you also level up and rank up, with characters each having their own signature weapon. You level up levels and skills, rank up every 10 levels. Duplicates give you a passive. Discs are basically artifacts, though the way you get things is streamlined this time around. Weapons have a pretty accessible shop. Upgrade materials are all handled through the VR arcade, and discs are handled by a shop too. Though it's more of a gacha, and you still have the option to grind for it instead if you prefer that. But combat is only half of the equation. If you recall, exploration is handled through a pretty funky looking interface. Well, as mentioned before, that's our battle station, the HDD. It's the primary way we go in and enter into the hollow to perform our proxy work. We're working off of a grid system here. We move around this labyrinth, uncovering new tiles and attempting to go into lower floors until we reach the end. There are different situations we may find ourselves in. Some maps are puzzles for us to solve, some operate more like dungeons. Many of the ones in the main story serve mostly to further the plot, of course. It's a good system, all things considered. It's simple enough, but they do enough with it to keep it feeling fresh, at least with the 3 chapters we have to mess around with so far. There is, however, something else I must say, some sad news to deliver, I am afraid. You see, I am sorry to inform you all, but the Persona comparisons were not just surface level. It goes much deeper than that. You have a calendar system. Each day consists of 4 time periods: morning, afternoon, evening, and midnight. Certain activities are only available to you at certain times of day. Now, for the sake of organization, I've decided to divide all of these into 2 main categories: gameplay and other. Gameplay activities are usually available 24/7. There's the main story, of course, but we'll touch on that later. Aside from that, you also have places like the VR arcade, your main spot for grinding the various upgrade resources, or the Scott's Outpost, which offers a variety of options. There's the routine cleanup and notorious hunts. Both also function as ways of getting resources, primarily discs and rank up materials. There's the Shiyu defense, which doesn't matter, who cares? But the real star of the show is the Hollow Zero. With a ton of different stages and its own upgrade tree to complete, this area basically functions as its own mini roguelike. You explore the Hollow like any other navigation, except you start with only one character, and find other agents as well as items, passive buffs, and various events as you go deeper in exploring. All around, I'd call it quite fun. But the real majority of your playtime is going to be spent doing side quests. You see, as a proxy, the majority of your work is done by picking up commissions from the internet, and seeing as your old account got deleted, you're going to be doing a lot of commissions. These come in 2 flavors, combat and exploration. Combat is just dealing with a certain number of fights, though some of them, like the rank up quests, end up being more like mini dungeons with their own obstacles to overcome. Exploration commissions tend to be more puzzle-like, focusing on some sort of special gimmick. As for the other category, you have shops. These grant you buffs, replenish your stamina once a day, let you upgrade gear, but more importantly, you can also spend time with the various agents you've unlocked. It's social links. It's just social links. A Persona fan discovers the concept of human connection. You'd be surprised. You can also go to the arcade and play some competitive online Snake. Either way, each day has a pretty solid formula. You'll wake up, run the shop, do your dailies, progress the story, knock out some commissions, and then come home to sleep with your sister. Now, what about the main story? Well, it's a gacha game, so there isn't much. That's not a diss on the narrative in any way. It's just that, at least at the time of making this video, there's only 3 chapters out. So I'll explain what I can. Man versus man. Man versus self. Man versus Soycide, and lastly, man versus Semite, a classical literary conflict etched deep within the annals of our history. Such is the plot of Chapter 1. We receive a message from a strange cat girl by the name of Nekomata. She begs us to help save Nicole and the rest of the Cunning Hares, since it was her gatekeep girl boss gaslighting that led to the sticky situation they now find themselves in. What exactly is this situation? Well, this evil businessman wants to invest in a very lucrative construction project. But to do this, he must clear the Section 7 housing, which just so happens to be located past the tunnel. Now, what does he do? Does he perhaps evacuate the area? Well, no, he goes for a far more direct approach. Either way, the Cunning Hares stumble upon this scheme by accident and must now put a stop to it. A zany train heist ensues, some misdirection, and a failed assassination attempt later, and the culprits are caught. Well, all of them except for the real villain, the one who was actually behind this whole scheme, orchestrating it all from behind. Women. Anyway, Nekomata joins the Cunning Hares, and the day ends on a good note. Nicole still doesn't pay us. That brat will get what she deserves someday. A fine chapter overall. I'd rank it around a 23.2 overall. Chapter 2 is about dad lore, cunning, and disappointingly, no feet. I mean, the teaser trailer of this game had me convinced the second Grace showed up that would be the main focus from that point forward, or at least a subplot of some sort for this chapter. But I guess false advertisement just isn't much of a big deal now. Anyway, Coleta over here hates her dad, because much like in the average African American household, he disappeared. Such a shame. Who could abandon a sweet face like that? As for why we're here, we were commissioned to help the company locate their missing machines. This company is run by the previously mentioned Coleta, a fiery and hot-headed girl with a lot of passion for what she does. A lot of heat in such a short package. My type of woman. Apart from her, we also have Grace, her sister, and the company's main mechanic, as well as also my type of woman. Anton. This dude rocks. Need I say more? And some bear. I don't know. Anyway, the company is trying to pick up and grow now that their main competitor, Vision, has fallen. You see, Bellabog Industry uses this really wacky technology that grants their machines a sentience, which is useless, might I add. Why does my vacuum cleaner need a worldview? And as a result of this awful idea, they've all gone rogue, and we must now find and repair them. We go after 3 of them: a lovesick yandere, a gamer, and a holy fool. But upon speaking with the holy fool, we learn something quite odd. The machine mentions Coleta's father by name. This seems to trigger some sort of trauma flashback in her. We learn that, allegedly, her father seems to have run away after stealing some funds, leading to the reputation of the company being in ruin, and his daughter's hatred of him. It seems the only way we will find out the real truth of this situation is by hunting down the prototype he built, the one the holy fool mentioned. One more commission later, and as we thought, it seems the man was simply trying to protect that which he held dear. So, after resolving the dad lore and dealing with a particularly anomalous looking entity, we make our way out and hand it off to the police. Now, I assume you thought I was going to say Chapter 3 next, but you'd be wrong. You see, there's Chapter 2.5. Impressive, right? It's short and sweet, but still pretty enjoyable. We explore the big city, spend some quality family bonding time with our sister, and end up getting mixed up in a town-wide cyber terrorist attack, leading to a run-in with the police. Unfortunately for us, these are female cops, so we might not make it out alive. Fortunately, they are both very attractive women, so I wouldn't exactly mind if things ended up going south. Either way, they're trying to get us to sign this petition. At first, none of the citizens want to, as it seems the police chief seems to have fallen off, so nobody wants to attend the event he's hosting. But after cornering the fiend in the hollow and bringing an end to the cybercrime case, the event comes, and upon eavesdropping the 2 officers talking, we find out that the item we sent off to be investigated after the end of the last chapter is at risk of getting stolen. Deciding to prioritize the safety of the item over the press conference they had to attend today, the pair run into the hollow to put a stop to it. We decide to go in after them and eventually form a truce to be able to help them out of the sticky situation. they once again find themselves in. After some more zany hijinks, we managed to find the culprit and recover the stolen goods. All's well that ends well. Oh, I just realized now I didn't mention them by name. Well, their names aren't important. You see, neither of them are playable. Therefore, I will not acknowledge their existence. Although by the time this video releases, I'm sure that statement will be outdated. Lastly, Chapter 3. I don't actually know everything that happens in Chapter 3. There's a weird haunted house. We go there with the cunning hairs again. We find a ton of maids, a furry, and the iconic shark girl. But I haven't finished it yet. Some might call that irresponsible of me. I mean, then I'm not giving you the full picture of the story, now are I? To this, I say, the main plot isn't the only form of story we get, as there's also personal character missions you unlock alongside the main story. Now, I haven't done them all, yet, but I have done the first couple of ones, and from that, all I can say is, Nekomata, I love her, and her story convinced me that she's easily one of the best girls. Why did I have to get Soldier 11 instead? Soldier 11, her story is fine, it's cute, kinda made me start to appreciate her a little bit more, though I don't know if that's just the Stockholm Syndrome kicking in. Grace, peak cinema. This is the best one, for reasons. Koleda, pretty nice all around. I haven't finished it yet, I've only done the first part, but I love Koleda, so I'll probably love her story too. Anyway, that's about it for the story, at least for now. You might ask yourself, whoa, that was pretty fast. You covered the game's story fairly quickly and didn't go into much detail. Aren't you gonna go more in depth? No. I'm afraid if you wanted a detailed explanation of the game's lore and relationships, you came to the wrong place. Either way, the game is great. I've gone over my issues with many of the things affecting the game, such as the seemingly poor localization. I mean, I've heard the word sus in the script enough times to assume some inaccuracy is at play here, and that ain't good to say the least. As well as the horrid censorship. And that's just a shame, because aside from that, I would indeed call this an excellent game. Just goes to show how stuff like this really only serves to ruin great games. But I digress. I'm excited to see what comes next, and seeing the community grow to be something quite unexpected given the studio's track record has put a smile on my face. I can only hope to hear better news in the future. Now, as I said, I didn't pull for the Shark Girl, as I am saving for what I know will be better investments. And looking at the upcoming banner, I will not be pulling for the Fed either. But it feels wrong to end the video without one last roll. I'm only 10 away from my second gold on the standard banner, so I'll just take the bullet and waste some film on the standard banner. If I end up getting a new character, especially Nekomata or Koleda, then we end off on a high note. Otherwise, if I get something bad like a weapon or another copy of Soldier 11, I will kill myself. We only operate at extremes here. Either way, let's leave it to Lady Luck.
Whoa! Big ball!
At least I got enough currency to finally unlock Lucy. That's something, right?
An honored guest just arrived. Allow me, Lady Lucy, to entertain you.
It sure is a Wally.